Welcome to the Worldwide Doula podcast. I'm Barry, I'm a registered nurse and birth doula, and each week I'm joined by a new guest speaker to talk about all things pregnancy, birth, babies, and parenthood. So it's time to sit back and relax as we get into some juicy topics. Welcome back to the Worldwide Doula podcast, everyone. Today I'm going into the second part of Sommer's birth story. We will be talking about postpartum and mental health after baby arrives, and we'll be talking a little bit about how she managed to get back on her feet. So enjoy the episode. Just a fair warning, there are quite a few dark themes in this episode, so just be aware before you start listening that this might be a sensitive topic for people. All right, enjoy the episode.
Before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after, I still kind of felt relatively the same. So much thought towards obviously pregnancy anymore because I was over that and anything to do with pregnancy and symptom. So in some regards, it was a bit better, but I still kind of felt a little flat. What I kind of refer to sometimes, I felt like I was in a bit of an autopilot. I don't think I've talked to many people about it. So I didn't have an obvious postnatal depression, but I still felt quite the same, bit down. I was still happy. Luna and I were safe. She was safe. She's healthy. She's here. She's doing really well. But there were some stresses. So like a week after I left hospital. So I was there for about 4 days, I think, and I left. And it was about a week after I had to go back because my episiotomy had gotten infected. The pain was just so bad, like close to pregnancy pain, like contraction pain. It was just that bad. And I'm like, this isn't normal, something's not right. I need to go back to hospital and get it sorted out. I think the gynecologist had a look and she was like, oh yeah, it's just like a little bit infected, but it's healing so well. And I'm like, a little bit? I'm crying just from the slightest movements because it's just excruciating pain. And I kind of felt like I had to really advocate for myself, this does not feel like a little bit infected. Like I could barely walk down the long ass corridor to the maternity unit at the hospital that I gave birth in. Just little steps at a time, trying not to make any big sudden movements because anything would just give me a really bad stabbing pain. So I got antibiotics. They gave me lidocaine. That helped. As soon as I put that lidocaine on, I felt like I could relax. That went away. I think when Luna was about 3 weeks old, she was starting to get really off, not settling, crying. It'd been kind of 10 hours, this 10-hour period where she barely slept and was just constantly crying. Couldn't settle her. And I'm like, something's wrong. This isn't right. This is not her. She's been really great with feeding and sleeping. Some people were like, oh, maybe she's just going through a bit of a phase. And I'm like, no. We took her in and she ended up having a little UTI infection. And I think she stayed for 2 nights to get IV antibiotics. And then we went home. We got given oral ones, went home. That was okay. But then it was a couple of days and we weren't really seeing signs of improvement. It was just the same and then slowly getting worse again. So we had to go back again and then did another urine sample. And then they found out the specific bacteria was resistant to the antibiotic that they had given us before because they couldn't find it in the first sample. They knew the kind of the general idea of it, but they didn't know it was that specific one. So oh, it's actually this one. It's antibiotic resistant. So here's other antibiotics. Poor Luna, little tiny baby.
Yeah, 2 courses of antibiotics on such a little baby body.
Yeah, she copped it a little bit. She did have the runs and a very upset tummy for a while. But after that, it was okay. And then I also had relationship stress. Relationship was kind of starting to break down at that point. We didn't have very good communication. I was finding that some promises weren't being met or some standards weren't being filled like we had talked about. And, so that relationship was, just starting to break down. So there were quite a few kind of things within that small pocket moment, bang, bang, kept my mental health quite low when it was already quite low previously anyway. which is a bit sad. And I do think about it a lot, and I do feel a lot of guilt even now about how I was during the pregnancy and how much control my mental health and my emotions had over me during the pregnancy because I wasn't enjoying pregnancy like I should have been. I should have really been taking everything in and enjoying it. There were a lot of moments that made me so happy. The first scan and, feeling the first kick and, reaching these milestones and, going to all these appointments and hearing that, yeah, the baby's still really healthy. There's still a very strong, like, heart rate. Everything's great. But just the in between and towards myself, the emotional like dysregulation was so bad.
Mm.
And I felt like I had no control over my emotions or myself, and therefore I wasn't enjoying pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I felt bad that I wasn't enjoying pregnancy. I should be embracing it and loving my unborn child
Mm.
like everyone else does. You hear about them being like, oh, you're not even born yet and you're so loved. And I'm like, why
Not
don't I
really
have
that
those
that feeling.
feelings? So that kind of lingered to after birth, where, don't get me wrong, I was still happy and grateful that, I delivered a child into this world and she was healthy and nothing was really wrong. I just really struggled to kind of get a connection or like connect to her emotionally. It took a little bit, but I just felt weird. I don't know how to explain it, but other
Yeah.
than I felt weird, but then I felt a lot of guilt because, I hear and see so many other mothers that are like a week old and I love you so much, or like, you've only been in this world for 24 hours and you're so loved. And I was like, just in a weird state of shock, I
Mm.
guess, unsure on how to process everything and all these thoughts, feelings, emotions, what just happened during, my labor. And now I'm jumping straight into being, a new mum and doing this, doing that, and doing XYZ that I have to do. So for a little bit, those kind of external factors, and then also like my mental health being quite poor, I kind of really struggled for a little bit there on forming a connection. And, I didn't really talk to anyone about it because I felt very deeply ashamed. And I
Mm.
didn't want people to judge me and think like, you're ungrateful, you don't love your child. There are women out there who have difficulty falling pregnant and you have this blessed opportunity. They would kill to be in your shoes. So I very much kept that to myself and, worked on it. Yeah, it took a while just with how my mental health was. So it did linger, but it definitely wasn't as bad as pregnancy with all the hormones flying around left, right, and center like they do. But I still just had this something that was lingering.
I can't say that I've ever had mental health issues like you have. My sisters have had a little bit of it, but I've always been one of those people who have difficulty talking to people with mental health. Like I said, we were talking on our little chat about your mental health placement, and I
Yeah.
said that, that was not my favorite nursing placement. I'm one of the people who's just like, acknowledge how you feel and get on with it. I'm not very good and me trying to empathize with you, like that sounds really terrible. And where I'm coming from is I could not imagine going through that. That must have been so difficult for you.
It
Yeah.
was. And like, it's what, 3 years later. I'm in a much better spot now mentally and, my life and where it's heading. I've got this moment now where everything feels calm so I can stop. And then I'm able to process everything now that I'm in like such a great calm position. So yeah, 3 years ago, and I'm still trying to like reflect and
Mm,
think and apologize to myself as well, and
yeah.
acknowledge things, and then also go, okay, now that I've had time to think, reflect, what can I do? What are the things I can't do? I can't change the past.
Yeah.
What can I do now? Work on my mental health, go do X, Y, Z, really kind of take the time to sit down with Luna and, do a lot of like one-on-one relationship building
Yeah.
things. All of these things really helped. And back then I loved Luna, but now I'm like, I'm in a much better place. And,
Yeah.
you know, I've really worked on those things. I'm like, fucking absolutely love Luna. She
Yeah.
is funny and hilarious. And I'm very thankful for her
Yeah.
because she's definitely taught me a lot of great lessons and really
Mm.
helped me mature and grow up and get my act together in a positive way. Not so much
Yeah.
like a you're a failure, you need to get your shit together. More of like a this is my reality now and I want to be the best that I can for Luna. And what does that mean? I'm gonna have to like get up and start this journey. It's gonna be rough, but it's better than not doing anything about it.
Journey from maiden to mother. It's a big transition. Nobody's ever the same person when they come through the other
Yeah.
side. And having to deal with mental health issues on top of that is crazy. It's amazing how you've been able to just process everything. And it's part of your journey. Everyone's journey is different. And you've come through the other side, and you're a great mum to Luna. You are.
Thank you. I
And I
try.
don't even know you that well. I always hear great things about you from Claudia. You can
Uh,
thank her.
I was gonna say, oh
Yeah.
my God, thanks, Claudia. Love ya. If you're listening
So,
to this, love you.
yeah, what obviously you would have needed some support after you had Luna. What kind of support did you have? Did your mum stay around, or did you go to mum groups, or were you living with your mum at the time? What kind of support system did you have in place?
Not too long after I found out I was pregnant and I told mum, I decided to move back down home here in Pottsville to the family home. So no one was in it at the time because they just finished renovating it. So mum said, look, you and Luna's dad, you guys can come live in this house while we still live in like my stepdad's house, which is not too far away. It's like 3 streets away. She was like, you know, we're happy for you to have this house to yourself. Obviously, keep it tidy, keep it clean. You know, we want to give you guys some space. So I was like,
Yeah.
sweet, thank you, very grateful. So yeah, so since then, like I've been pretty much in this house ever since. Mum came around like every day for I think about a week, was here
After you
every
had
day.
Luna.
When I got home, especially from hospital, she's here like every day, just helping, cooking, cleaning,
Good.
you know, like advice and assistance with Luna. Like, you know, I'll watch Luna while you go have a shower or, you know, go like fresh, like I'd still be in my pajamas and she's like, I'll take Luna for a bit, like go freshen up and, you know, put some different clothes on and, you know, simple things like that. Claudia was down here for a little bit as well, and my younger sister and Luna's grandparents on her dad's side came down to visit, which is really nice as well. Just to be like, hey, like, congratulations. And so that was lovely. From memory, I had a community nurse come around and see me, and she was really cool. I think there were two and they alternated, but they were really nice. So, like, they'd come to my house and check on Luna, see how she is, you know, do the clinical assessments
The
that they need to
checks and stuff.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, they turn to me and go, like, how are you? You need help with anything? Do you have any questions? Like, they check on my episiotomy, see how that's going. I remember like asking a little bit more about latching techniques and breastfeeding, and they were like very helpful with that. They were like, you know, show me how you do it, and I would. And she's like, okay, that's great. You know, what might be better if you do like this angle or try this, and really make sure you try and do this. And so that was awesome. I can't remember anymore, but like there was like good support from like the community nurses. And then obviously that like 6 week follow up post birth, that like that 6 week one that you have follow up
Yeah.
appointment. So it was good. I didn't really do any mums and bubs stuff because again, like COVID, but like me personally at that time, I'm a very introverted person. I'm better now, but back then, so much more. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to do like mums and bubs. I feel
Yeah.
awkward. Like I'm very, very shy. I struggle a little bit in social situations.
You've been through a lot already, and sometimes it's good to just have help from the people who are close to you, and you don't
Yeah.
feel like sharing your most intimate details with strangers. So, yeah, it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. So, that's totally understandable. When did you get your period back after you had Luna? You stopped breastfeeding at like 2 or 3 months. When did you get your period back?
Good question. I can't exactly remember, sorry. but I don't remember it being like super early or like super late. It was still within like that normal kind of like predictions.
Yeah.
Do you know what they are?
Well, I mean, normally it's after you stop breastfeeding, it will normally come back. Like everyone's different. This is like the
Mm.
thing. You can't really say, oh, yeah, you'll get your period back at this time. Some people are breastfeeding and they get it back at 6 weeks. Some people are breastfeeding and they don't get it back for a year. Some people stop breastfeeding and then don't get it back for a little bit. You know, everyone's different. If you don't remember, that's fine. It was,
Yeah, sorry, I don't remember, but I remember
yeah,
it being like, yeah, 2, 3, 4 months maybe after giving
after,
birth. It
yeah.
was somewhere around there, definitely.
Mm.
It wasn't like a year or anything huge like that.
Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently? Like, obviously, you're in a very different place now than you were back then, but would you have seeked more education in certain areas or tried something different in your birth or anything like that?
The information I went out and I got and I saw it, it was great. And I feel like you can never be prepared for childbirth.
Yeah.
Like you can read as much as you want, but you're still not going to be fully prepared for it. Purely out of interest, if I were to fall pregnant again soon, I would go and, look into other things like maybe hypnobirthing, more so for like the breathing techniques, which I thought are really good because that does help. I was a bit kind of like to it when I was younger in the antenatal classes, but
Yeah.
looking back on it now, I'm like, I'm an idiot. Like I should have like at least given it a go. Like, 'cause I feel like breathing techniques would have been, really helpful.
I think it just seems like such a simple thing. Mums are like, "Oh, breathing, like how good can that actually be? What difference can it make?"
Yeah,
But
what do you
then
mean?
when
I'm
you
already
actually
breathing.
yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, focusing on your breath. It's kind of the same, the train of thought as meditation. How good is meditation? What good can it actually do for me? And, does it actually work? It works for some people. For others, they just have such active minds and they just don't give it the time of day
Yep.
to work. So,
That's
yeah,
immediately where like my thought process went at that time was like, I don't like meditation because at that time it was like I didn't know I kind of had ADHD, but I don't like meditation because like my thoughts are too loud and I can't concentrate. And if I try to, I will lose concentration so quickly. I don't like meditation, it's silly. So
yeah,
like I went down that avenue of like, why would I do hypnobirthing? It's just about like meditation and that's not for me. Like I
yeah,
can't concentrate
yeah,
on that shit. But it's not just about that. And as we get older and we mature a bit more, it's not just that, there are other things you can take away from hypnobirthing, like, breathing techniques, which can eventually put you into sort of a meditative state
mm,
unconsciously. But then there might be some things that I'll learn about that I had no idea. And I'll
yeah,
go, oh, that's actually kind of cool. I might take that away or I might use it or I
yeah,
don't like it in that particular way, but I'll still
yeah,
take it and adapt it to what I would like. I think seeking out kind of just those alternative options would have been nice and not just kind of doing the bare sort of minimum that I did and thinking like, oh yeah, this will do. Looking back, I wish I thought about my choice a bit better. The choice of do I stick with this pregnancy or, do I decide to have an abortion? I really wish I thought about it more for myself and not so much wanting to make other people happy
mm,
because that was mostly my thought process at the time with how my mental health was. It's like I didn't care about myself, I just care about other people. So I wish I kind of thought more about that at the time because, yeah, like making a decision based on trying to make other people happy. And then in a way being like, well, what if like I have a kid? Will that make me happy? It's not a very healthy way of
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
for having a child.
It's not the reason that you should be bringing a child into
Yeah,
the world. Yeah,
exactly. So, like because I've made decisions based on that, I was definitely not ready
yeah,
for a child back then. And, that did later on have a domino effect into my mental health during pregnancy and a
mm,
bit after. I wish I admitted that I needed mental health support at the
yeah,
time I was kind of like, that dissociating of like looking above myself, looking at me down, not being able to do anything and, not being able to stop fatal actions that I could have followed through with. I'd be in the shower crying for a solid hour, and then I'd have Luna's dad like physically pulling me out of the shower. One time I was like refusing to get out of the shower and I was not in a good place and he didn't know what to do. So he ended up calling my mum to come around and she came around and she got me up and she got me out and sat on the couch and was talking to me. That should have been a sign for me like, I really need to go get help. I really need to do something about this, but I was still just hesitant and in denial. Didn't feel like I deserved help. I felt like if I got help, I would have enjoyed the pregnancy alone a lot more than what I did. And then also maybe that would have helped me not struggle so much with forming a connection with Luna afterwards. So I wish I admitted that I needed help. And I don't blame like anyone involved in, helping me out. So like, Luna's dad or my mum, like, for not, taking me in voluntarily because that was all me. I refused. It was that autonomous, like, I'm saying no, and you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. And even like now, like, I'm paying the price because I'm only just getting everything sorted out now with my mental health, with medication, seeing a psychologist, a diagnosis, trying to find a psychiatrist at the moment when, I could have had all of this done so much sooner.
There's no shame in getting help. I don't think that anything's wrong. There's no shame in it. And people put expectations on themselves like, what's wrong with me? Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Oh,
Yeah.
this is normal. And then they don't say anything. And unfortunately, these things happen and it's scary. And getting help really does help. Find somebody who you feel comfortable talking to that you don't feel judged by because it's important and you don't want to be dealing with the consequences later on. And it's part of the process. Hormones are terrible in that way. Female hormones send you off your path all the time.
Off the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And we're said to be crazy, but it's like really most of the time our hormones doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to talk about, but when you start talking, it gets better.
Yeah.
My husband, he's totally into like sales psychology, but it's called brain crack. It's actually a thing. It's when you talk about yourself, you actually feel good. It's the idea that the more you talk about yourself, the better you'll feel. So yeah, the idea behind it is that letting people on sales calls talk about themselves and what they're going through will actually get them across the line. It kind of works the same way. Our brains release a certain chemical that makes us feel good when we talk about ourselves. So obviously having low self-esteem, you don't want to be talking about yourself because you feel self-conscious. You don't feel like you should be talking about yourself. You don't feel like anyone's listening to you and they're probably not interested in hearing about your story. But yeah, talking about yourself actually scientifically is proven to make you feel better. Just finding someone to talk to, even if it's not a psychologist, maybe it's one of your really good friends, starting there. That's a lot of burden for them to take on. But if they're happy to listen, and sometimes you don't even need the feedback, you just need to be talking.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'll have another baby or, you're done with Luna at the moment?
For a while, I was like, no, like I'm good, one child and, everything I went through, like how it happened, how it came to be, and then pregnancy and then labor. And then after the whole shebang of a couple of complications at the start of, the infection for both Luna and I, the relationship breakdown and then adjusting to life after that. I was like, oh my God, like
I can't do this again. Yeah.
I don't want to go through this again. Like, obviously, you're automatically just thinking it's only going to be like this next time. Things can't get better. And for a long time, I was like, probably not. I'm happy with just one child. But now that I've been with my current partner, Tom, for like over a year and a bit now, I'm warming up a bit more to the idea of potentially having another child. But that all depends on where we're at, how we're feeling. We both most definitely want to finish uni first before, having a child, because when I found out I was pregnant with Luna, I just started uni. I just started my nursing degree. I found out, and then I had to like completely drop out and go. And I'm like, I want to finish a degree this time and then think about having a child. And then Tom's like, I have to be financially stable and stable in this way, this way, this way. And I'm like, honestly, I agree with you. So maybe in the future, if, we feel like we are stable in many ways, I won't decline to it, but it's not really something that I'm thinking about now.
Yeah.
Most definitely
there
not.
are definitely some steps to do before you get to that step. Next step. And you've got lovely Aria to play with, or Luna's got Aria to play with, and you've got you've got that close sister figure almost.
Okay, I make sure, she has when she was ready to go to daycare, and she has a lot of friends at daycare. Apparently she's like friends with everyone and lovely to everyone and always has like a good time. I make sure like Luna gets out and so still socializes as much as she can, because while now she's still like an only child here, she's the only child in the house as well. So yeah, daycare, Aria, when she goes and visits her dad every second weekend, his younger sister has a daughter that's just a year older than Luna. So, Luna gets really excited going to see her cousin up there as well. So that's really nice.
That's nice. I wanted to say before, I actually remember the day that you had your baby, or the day that Claudia went down and saw you, because I remember hearing, like Sommer, Claudia's sister, just had her baby, and I got so excited. I was like, oh, yay, that's so exciting. And I remember seeing photos of Claudia holding Luna, and it just looked like you had a really good, warm support network there. And I think that's so important when you are going through such a difficult time.
Yeah, it did help a lot with just, keeping me afloat. Going from I'm this little rat bag 21-year-old bartending and kind of starting uni to all of a sudden I'm now a mum, and I've got this huge responsibility, and I need to start turning my life around now, because it's not just me anymore, it's Luna. Everything I do is going to affect her in some way.
That's great. I'm so happy that you told me the story. Thank you so much for opening up and, explaining. It's hard to talk about, I know. Yeah, it's been wonderful to talk to you today. So
thank you so much. That's okay. I've been really excited to tell my story, because Claudia and I joke around a lot about how opposite our stories are, sisters, and you kind of think, oh, maybe it'll be the same. But even if you're sisters, like it can be like our bodies
completely
different. And, it's just how like our lives ended up being afterwards as well, like completely different.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing all these birth stories, and I always learn so much about them. So, yeah, thank you so much. And if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you give us a follow and rate the show. And if you know someone who you think needs to hear this episode, give it a share so that we can spread the word and educate more mamas and women worldwide. And we'll see you next Monday for another juicy episode. For more information on pregnancy, birth, and parenthood, head over to my website or Instagram at blissfulbirth.co. And just a little reminder, the information contained in this podcast is here to educate and empower, and does not replace the advice of your own healthcare provider.